Hi guys, and thank you for watching another video with me and talking about classic films. Today we're talking about Vampire's Kiss from 1988, which it's kind of a classic film in a different way. So it's a Nicolas Cage film where he plays a publishing executive who has an encounter with a bat and a woman one night and then thinks he's becoming a vampire. So that's kind of the plot. It also stars Maria Conchita Alonso and Jennifer Beals. But that doesn't really describe the film. The reason it's kind of loosely a classic, it's maybe more of a cult film actually, but you know, I'm including it anyway, it's fine, is that this film is absolutely mental. And there are so many memes. Like, this film is just one meme after another. And I watched it recently, and I don't think I've laughed so hard in a while at a film. So it's set in New York, so it kind of has this New York skylines and things like that. But the film focuses on the buildings are often like more gothic in style, not sort of super modern. And so it almost has like a slight, you could maybe see that the director might have been going for a sort of like a urban gothic vibe maybe, or some kind of film noir influence maybe. The director was a TV director. This was his kind of move into, you know, the longer format. And so the look of the film has a sort of, not like a TV style, but it has like a gritty New York, low budget kind of look to it. Nicolas Cage was still starting out really at this point. He'd done Moonstruck, and I'm pretty sure this one came right after it. So he's a little bit crazy in Moonstruck, I think. I mean, he does make me laugh in that film, but this one, he just went all out with his performance, and every single scene, he just Nicolas Cages the shit out of it. So it's kind of wonderful, basically, but he's just a ham from like minute one. So the director set out to make a film that was like a darkly comic, maybe kind of study of a toxic relationship. But it doesn't really function that way. He'd been in a relationship with somebody when he was writing it, and it was kind of, the relationship was deteriorating. And so he was trying to reflect some of that, but it's kind of doesn't really, if you had a different actor than Nicolas Cage, it still wouldn't be like a great film. The idea is interesting, that somebody could kind of have an encounter with somebody and then think that they're a vampire, but the actions that he takes are crazy anyway. So it tanked at the box office. It really didn't do well at all, and it just went on to become a cult film because of this like Nicolas Cage performance. And there are scenes in the street where Nicolas Cage is walking around, because it's sort of a lower budget film. Some of the scenes he's doing things in the street, and it's just, there are no extras, so it's just, he's just going up to people. It's like real people that he's interacting with. So it kind of has this sort of vibe to it of like bigger budget than indie, but that somebody's trying to do something different and be creative. And it's, I don't think they did a bad job. It's just that Nicolas Cage wanted to do some interesting things within his own character. So there are scenes where Nicolas Cage goes to see a therapist, which are quite funny. He sort of talks about he tries to pick up women a lot, and then he sort of loses interest. And so he's sort of like trying to work through this in therapy, but then the whole situation with the bat just like turns him on, and so there's some really interesting like hilarious weird scenes where he's talking to his therapist. Later in the film, some of those scenes are like hallucinations, which means that sometimes you kind of have to wonder if like what's real and what's not, I guess. But it kind of doesn't matter by that point. The film, I think, for me, I kind of felt like it was almost like two films in one. So where there's Nicolas Cage dealing with what's happened to him or what he feels is happening to him. And then there's scenes with his secretary, Alva, who he wants her to find this random contract, and he's just putting insane pressure on her to find it. And he's just upping the pressure all the time, and he's kind of, I don't know, like it's almost like those scenes, it's not that they don't fit in the film, but when he's himself dealing with the vampire situation, he's doing all these different things. And when he talks to Alva, sometimes he has a different accent, and like it's kind of odd. It's like there's like this thread of narrative that he's like obsessed with her or something, and then there's this thread of narrative, and they don't really match up, basically, or at least they're not cohesive. I'm not saying that that's actually a bad thing. That's kind of what's wonderful about this film, is that nothing in it really makes sense. Or I mean, some things make sense, but it's kind of just a bit of a random one. So Maria Conchita Alonso as Alva is really good. She gets like all kinds of stuff happens to her. She gets chased across the office. He makes her stay late. He attacks her in the basement at one point. I'm not 100% sure what happens in that scene, because somebody says something later, and I think he like something happens, but you don't see it on screen, so I'm not sure. So yeah, I think some of my favorite scenes, I mean, how can you have favorite scenes in this? There's a scene where he just runs down the street screaming, I'm a vampire, which is amazing. There's a moment where he tries to catch a pigeon. There's a time where, I mean, when he chases his assistant or secretary across the office, that's pretty hilarious. There's a scene where he needs to get plastic teeth because his vampire teeth aren't coming through. There's a scene where he's like he doesn't have a coffin, so he just flips over his couch and sleeps under that. There's so much here in this film. I mean, it's amazing. So Nicolas Cage was trying to go for some interesting things in this film. The director couldn't really rein him in that much, because Nicolas Cage, but he tried to have German expressionism kind of elements to his performance, and then sometimes he has an accent and sometimes he doesn't. I mean, he's fully committed to whatever scene he's in, which I definitely credit him for, and he's hilarious. He pulls faces. He just fully is in character, but it seems like there's necessarily like one thing that he's going for. There's a scene where they said, you know, I think you should eat a raw egg, and he was like, how about I eat a cockroach? He just eats a live cockroach, which is disturbing. So he was putting 100% into this film. Why, I'm not sure. There's another scene where he's upset, and so he's crying, and so he just wanted to see if he could express sadness by just yelling the word boo-hoo. So there's that. So he was just trying to make the most kind of art house performance that he could, and like pulling from these influences, but I think he just didn't have the direction that he needed to kind of rein that in a little bit. And I'm not blaming the director for that because, you know, I'm not sure that the director could rein him in. But he sort of was like, I'm going to go for this in this scene and I'm going to go for that in this scene. And it's just makes for a very eclectic, crazy performance rather than being sort of art house and having like a subtlety or an influence of something, because he's putting his full energy into it. It's like a parody of whatever thing he's trying to do. So while this film is kind of strange and hard to maybe quantify, it's absolutely amazing to watch. It is insanity. And I mean, it is a portrait of somebody who is crazy. So I suppose in that sense, it all makes sense. There was an interesting point that I read somewhere that there's a vampire character who kind of reappears to him, and originally the actress that would be cast to play Alva was also going to be the vampire, which maybe would have made sense and like linked those two kind of plot lines a bit more. Like the reason why he's so horrible and intense and obsessive about Alva would be because she looks like the vampire that he sees, but they cast other people, so that kind of gets a bit lost. I don't think it would have, you know, saved the film. But I mean, it's an interesting little side note. I guess the last, you know, point to really make about this, and I mean, this is a fairly short review because, I mean, how much can you say about this movie? But this is Nicolas Cage's favorite film that he's made. And I think there's something kind of wonderful about that. I don't know if I love that so much because it's maybe not being self-aware, or maybe he just had fun and was able to really just kind of be creative in every scene and like push things to the limit and try things. So there's something to be said for that. I think for other people, it's often their favorite Nicolas Cage film as well. It's amazing to me how he can be so, like, he's such a 90s action guy, you know, Gone in 60 Seconds and Con Air and Face Off. I mean, and The Rock, I guess, as well. Those films are kind of cheesy, but they kind of fit the context of the time. I mean, a lot of action films were cheesy then. But it's like they're very entertaining. His performance is really good. His characters sort of make sense in the context of the film and stuff. And then there's like the other Nicolas Cage who's like this, Vampire's Kiss, Wicker Man. And so I feel like it's a lot of fun to watch Nicolas Cage film and just look for the Nicolas Cage freak out. There's a really fun one in Mandy. He has a good freak out in that one. That's a kind of crazy film. But yeah, I mean, he's so capable of delivering like a really good dramatic performance and so capable of this other strange side of his personality. And I don't mean strange in a bad way, because I actually I really enjoy Vampire's Kiss. I think it's hilarious. Even if it wasn't intended to be hilarious, it's really entertaining. And I think if Nicolas Cage is in something, it's pretty much a guarantee that I will watch it, because it's either going to be like he's going to give a good performance or he's going to give a full Nicolas Cage performance, whichever, and there will be like a Nicolas Cage freakout in there somewhere. So, I mean, it's always good, even when it's really bad. Sometimes it's even better when it's really bad. So I think if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, this is like the film. And if you're kind of a fan of like that kind of, I mean, he's such an individual. I can't think of another film that's really like this, but some films are just such, you know, memes. They're just funny. They're just crazy. And I mean, this is that. So I just wanted to end on a little funny thing that I thought was actually really sweet when he was creating his character for this film, or creating, you know, working on scenes and like practicing things and trying things out. He would be in his hotel room and he'd be like running lines and practicing things in front of his cat, which makes me so happy because that means he took his cat with him like to hotels. That's adorable. And he traveled with a cat, and also his cat you know, was like his acting coach. I don't know. I think that's sweet because when I record these, so often, like almost always, my cat is here with me. I wouldn't say that he coaches my YouTube performance in any way. But I do think, you know, my cat just randomly kind of goes nuts sometimes and just runs around and has loads of energy. And I can see that. There's a little bit of that in Vampire's Kiss, so maybe he did pick up some kind of a tip from his cat. So maybe this is more of a cult film, as I said, than a classic, but I really enjoyed watching it recently, and I thought I would share because it's just fun to talk about this film. And if anyone's seen it, they're just gonna kind of come at you with their favorite moment from this movie. So definitely give it a watch if you haven't, and if you have, please tell me your favorite moment in the comments because that will make me very happy. And of course, I know Nicolas Cage is kind of an acquired taste. Not everybody wants to see a grown man running down the street, or chasing a pigeon, or reciting the alphabet to his therapist. But some of us do. So yeah, thank you for watching. I always love sharing movies with you guys. It's really fun for me. And I will be back next time. I think next time I'll try and do something maybe a little bit more in the classic line, because I've had a few slightly more contemporary ones lately. So keep mixing it up. Thanks for watching, and no, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.